Okay, so today we have this Lekato TANK-G multi-effects processor for guitar. So this is a pretty small all-in-one device. It'll model amps, it'll do modulation effects, delays, reverbs. You can load impulse responses onto it. It's really a powerful small device for only about $80. So I'm anxious to try it out and hear how it sounds. But first, let's open up the box and see what's inside. So you can see it looks like they use the same box for the electric guitar version and the bass version. So hopefully this is the guitar version. Let's open it up. So we've got an instruction manual, a lot of small print. We'll look through that. We've got a USB cable. That's interesting. I'm not quite sure what that is. We've got 3 lines here. We'll have to figure what that is. And then we have the device. Take it out here. Okay, so let's go over what we got here. So on the back, you've got a USB. So this is used for charging the battery or connecting it to the computer. You've got a little charging indicator, the light here. It's very small and you can see it. On-off switch. You've got a out for a mono out, headphones out. They call this the audio output jack. So that might be what this is for. Let's go ahead and plug it in and check it out. All right, so I've got this set up. If we take a look at the top here, what I've done is I'm running my guitar actually into a overdrive pedal because I want to test how it takes some pedals in front of it directly into the device. And then out of the device, I'm running into my USB adapter. So the USB adapter is doing 2 things for me. One is letting me record to my computer. You can't do that via the USB here, but I've already got a home studio set up where I've got my own interface, so I'm going to use that. And the other thing the interface is doing for me is it's running the output to a studio monitor. But again, you can do that with this device via this XLR output right here. So one of the things you'll see is that there's a little dot here. That's a light. So this device runs off battery. And when you plug USB charger into here, it'll be red when it's charging and then turn blue when it's charged up. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And according to the documentation, it should run about 12 hours on a single charger battery. So let's talk about the front of the device. So one thing I love about this device is it has hardware controls for all of the settings pretty much you're going to have on the device. There is a separate program that runs on the computer that lets you interface with this. We'll look at that a little bit later, but I didn't need to use that for anything other than putting custom IRs on the device. So we'll cover that later. Everything is really straightforward, I think, through the front of the device, and I like that a lot. So it runs in 2 modes. It runs in preset mode, which is what I'm in now. And this screen here shows you what bank you're on. There's 1 through 9 banks, and each bank has 4 presets in it. And so you can go up and down with the banks by pressing the 2 buttons. So these 2 go down, these 2 go up. So if I press these up, it goes to 2. If I press this, it goes back to 1. So right now I'm on the first bank and I'm on preset A. Here's B, here's C, here's D. The other mode this has is called live mode. And if I press these 2 together, this turns to an L. That means it's in live mode. That means I can edit all of these settings. And you'll notice there's a lot of lights blinking right now. When the light is blinking, what that means is that the setting you see on the knob is different than the setting in the preset. So for example, this gain setting right here is different on my preset. That's why that's blinking. So I don't go by off what's on the knob. So that's a really easy way to understand kind of what settings are different other than what's on the knob. And we'll come back to live mode in a second. So if I press these 2 back, I go back into preset mode. Again, I'm back. I can switch between my presets. So let's hear a couple presets that I put together and we'll check them out. So this first preset I built is using the Fender Twin Reverb amp. And it's just a nice, pure, clean sound. And you can see by what lights are on, I'm using reverb and delay because these lights are on. The blue is the delay, the purple is the reverb. I do not have modulation on. So let's say I wanted to add a chorus to this sound. I would put it into live mode, and I would choose the modulation settings I want. We'll go through that in a second. But all I would do is press this C button where it says mod, so modulation. That turns it on. And then those lights turn green because modulation is on. Now, if I go back to preset mode, those lights go off because I didn't save that setting. So let's go back. I'm going to turn on modulation. And then to save it, I want to save it into this A preset. I just long press this button. Now that's been saved. If I go back, you can see those lights are on because I have modulation on this preset now. Kind of a nice 80s tone there. And then if I want to turn the modulation off, I just go back here. Again, I press this till the lights go out, and then I long press this, and it saves it. And now my preset doesn't have modulation anymore. And then if I go to the second preset, this is more of a little bit of a kind of blues gainy sound. And this is the Bogner Shiva amp. And then this one is a Marshall Plexi. And then this one is a Marshall JCM 800. As you can hear, you've got a wide array of tones that you can get from this device. And it even takes pedals pretty well. So right now I'm going to turn on an overdrive pedal in front of the device. So it takes pedals pretty well. You can even use them as kind of a boost on top of one of the gainier sounds. So if I put the pedal in front of the Plexi, it's a nice boost. So it's great flexibility here to add on to this and use this as kind of maybe the foundation of a pedal board, but you can add things in front of it. So let's talk about the signal routing here. So if we look at the features, they run from right to left. So the first thing we have is a noise gate, and then we get into our amp. You pick your type of amp, you pick its gain level, you have an EQ, bass, middle, and treble, and then you have an overall volume. And then from the amp, it goes into modulation, it goes into your delay, it goes into your reverb, it goes through your IR, and you have 8 different IR slots, or you can turn the IR off altogether if you wanted to run this through an actual cabinet, and then you have a master volume. So your signal chain always runs in that order. And like I said, with all the hardware knobs and the lights, it's very easy to see on each preset what's on and what's off. And if you want to edit something, it's very easy just to go into live mode, make a small tweak, save it, and go back. So I'm really liking the approach of kind of the user experience of this. You know, a lot of these types of devices want to have a lot of it into like an LED screen and just maybe 1 or 2 knobs, and you're trying to go through menus and stuff. This is very straightforward. It's all working more like a typical guitar pedal would, so it's kind of simple to use. But let's build out a preset from scratch. So let's go ahead and go up to bank 2, and we're going to be on A. And I'm going to put this in a live mode, and I'm going to turn off the modulation, and we're going to build a preset from scratch. So the first thing we want to do is decide whether or not we want the noise gate on. So right now it's off. If I turn it on, you'll see the light will come on as I turn the knob up. If I turn it all the way back down, the light goes off because the noise gate is off. We'll leave it off for now until we feel like we need it. And then I choose my type of amp. And there's 9 different types of amps running from, a Vox AC30 or a Fender 65 through several Marshall variants, an EVH 5150, an Engel Powerball, and all the way to a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. So you've got a lot of different gain levels you can go through here. Let's check them out. So we'll start with the AC30. So that's furthest to the left, and we're just going to set everything at 12 o'clock. And then we do need to pick a cab, so I'm just going to turn on this cab here, and it sounds like this. So that's a little quiet. Let's go ahead and turn the volume up a little bit. Maybe give it a little more gain. A little more sparkle on the top end, maybe. So a good basic sound. So let's add some effects to it. So we'll start with the reverb. So all the effects, I'll tip it so you can see the buttons. If you notice, there's 3 sections on the right knob for each effect type: reverb, delay, and the modulation. And what that does is it allows you to adjust the setting, but it also adjusts the type. So for example, the reverb, this knob controls the decay, but it also controls whether it's a room reverb, a spring reverb, or a cloud reverb. So in this first area, it's a room reverb. And so the decay goes from 0 to whatever this is right here. And then you switch over to spring reverb, and then the decay goes back down to low, and it goes up. And eventually you get to a cloud reverb and the same thing. So if we put the cloud reverb with tons of decay, so this is the cloud reverb. Now, if you notice, there's no reverb yet because I haven't turned it on. Now the lights are on. Let me turn the mix up a little bit. So that's the cloud reverb. If I turn it down to a spring reverb, and then the room reverb. So we'll stick with the room reverb, just not too much of it. I think that's a good amount. All right, so let's talk about delay. So the same thing. The delay has the 3 sections on its mix control, and there's 3 kinds of delays. There's an analog delay, there's a tape delay, and there's a dual delay. So right now we're on analog delay, and then we can affect the time. So let's go ahead and turn the delay on. Now our lights are on. You can hear I got a really long delay time. I'll turn that down a little bit. Maybe we'll turn the reverb off so we can hear delay a little better. So that's a analog delay. Go to tape delay. You can hear the difference is the tape delay is going to give you a little bit of a imperfect copy each time. And that's kind of one of the nice warm things about how a tape delay sounds. And so that's what that's mimicking. have a dual delay. So you can hear it's taking the delay time you set and it's varying it a little bit for the two delays. So let's stick with the analog delay. I'll turn the reverb back on. All right. And then for the modulation, again, we would press this button to turn it on. We get our green lights. There's three types of modulation effects. You've got either a chorus, you've got a phaser, or a tremolo. And so for the modulation, you've got the speed, and then this one, and this is one of the differences with the modulation effect, is depending on which type of effect you choose, this knob controls a different aspect. So if you're on the chorus, this controls the mix. So you'll notice with the chorus you have speed and mix, so you're not going to have a depth. You just get kind of a standard depth to use. For the phaser, this affects the depth. And then for the tremolo, again, this affects mix. So we crank the mix all the way up. So like the chorus, you have control of the speed and the mix, but not the depth. So let's go ahead and leave this on a chorus. And we'll leave the speed down a little bit lower. So if we want to save this, I'll just long press this, and now I've saved that preset into Bank 2 Preset A. But let's play around with some of the amps. So, right now we're on the AC30 amp, and nice clean tone. If we push up the gain, there's not really a good amount of crunch there. And so that's one of the things I've noticed on the clean amps on this device is you're not going to push them into overdrive very much. They stay clean all the way through. They have tons of headroom. So if you're looking for that overdriven Vox sound, you're really not going to get it. If we go to the Fender, let's go ahead and turn some of this off so we can hear the amp. So you're getting a little bit more of that kind of Fender top end there. And then you've got the Bogner Shiva, which is getting a little more drive. Remember, I've got the drive all the way up. Let's turn that down to halfway and turn up the volume. So I think this is really nice kind of low gain amp. So it sounds really nice. You've got a Marshall GCM 45. So this one, so this is adding just a little bit more gain. You can go to a Marshall Plexi. And all of of these, you can adjust the gain levels, you can adjust the EQ. I'm just running through them so you can hear the difference. Let's put the gain up just a little bit here. And remember, you can also change the IR for all of these. So if I go to Marshall IR, so you know, the IR makes a lot of difference in how these sound. If we go to the Marshall JCM 800, it's even more gain. And you can hear now, we're getting a little bit of noise. So this is when you might want to turn on the noise gate. So I would just turn it on until the hiss goes away. Now it's gone. So if I play, you can hear the hiss is still there, but it closes. So it's a pretty slow close on the noise gate, but I think it works pretty well for just keeping things under control. We go to the next amp. This is a EVH 5150. Again, we can try different cabinets. If you turn the IR off, here, that's very kind of trebly and unpleasant. So the IR is a key part of the tone, and you would only turn the IR off if you're running this into kind of its own amp with a cabinet. So if you're using a regular guitar cabinet kind of as a monitor for this, you would not want to run an IR. But overall, you're going to keep an IR on. And then we've got an Engel Powerball amp. And then last but not least, you have a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. So all these are pretty good sounding amps. It's really just kind of what you're going for. You know, there's a lot of different levels you can pick, and each amp kind of has a good flavor to it that's a different kind of thing. I tend to go more for the clean and low gain stuff. You know, sometimes I like a nice Marshall lead, but I'm not usually using, you know, a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. But if that's the kind of tone you're looking for, you know, it's here. And I think that's pretty cool. This thing is pretty flexible. So if we leave this and we're in our preset, remember this is our AC30 tone that we created. And the other thing I'll say is, if you tap the preset button that's selected, it turns everything off, and then it's really just running the signal through. So if you were using this in front of an amp, you could disable it and use what the amp is doing on its own. The other thing I'll say is this has a built-in tuner. So we talked about putting in a live mode, you press these two together. If you press those two and hold it, you go into tune mode. And then what it does is it uses the lights. You can see I'm a little bit sharp. So I hit an E, it's a little bit sharp. And the lights tell me where it is. And then if I hit another note, it's going to tell me where that one is. And then I just press it again and I go back. Okay, so let's switch over to the desktop application. And to install this, what I had to do was just go to the website and download it. And the install was pretty straightforward. The only hiccup I had was the application wasn't signed from a security perspective in such a way that my MacBook would run it right away. I had to kind of bypass that security feature on my Mac. But once I did that, it runs really well. You can see right now I have it up and running. As soon as I connect my device via USB right now, it recognizes the device pretty much right away. And then I go ahead and I click on it and it brings up this. And this allows me to edit all my presets and load IRs and things like that. So right now, you can see I'm on preset 1A. I can switch presets here. So you can see here what's turned on and off. I can turn off effects. I can adjust the amp. Right now I'm on amp top 5, that's the plexi. If I wanted to go up to 7, which is the 5150, I can do that. I can switch presets. Here's my clean one. So I have full control of my presets from here. And that's nice, but you know, the device is so easy to use that I don't really use this application for managing the presets. What I do use this application for is managing the impulse responses. So this device does come with, I believe, 8 different impulse responses included, but you can also add custom impulse responses to this. So let's say I'm on my Marshall Plexi tone. And I want to use a custom impulse response that I have. I can go ahead and open the IR file, use a different cabinet. I'm going to go ahead and use this Marshall Bright right here. I hit open. I do need to set the volume, which is a little unintuitive. And then I hit select. You can see I've now got a new IR in here. Let's say I want to use a different one. I'll just use this 1x12. And I hit select. But we're going to go back to this Marshall one. I hit open. I hit select. One of the things I can do is I could go ahead and I could save it onto my device in a certain slot. So I pick the slot I want. Let's say I go to slot 4. And I said save IR data to device. And then, so right now, if I go over and I change this to 4, that IR is now there. So that's a really easy way for you to adjust the IRs you want to use. And as we've seen before, the IR can have a huge impact on the way your preset sounds. And now I can just save this preset. Okay, and now it's been saved. So in the end, this little thing is pretty good. You've got some really good usable amp tones on this. I love the user experience, the fact that you've got hardware knobs for pretty much anything you'd want to do with this. You don't need to scroll through any menus or anything like that. You've got a lot of good connectivity options. You've got a headphone jack out, you've got a line out, you've got the XLR out. It's battery powered, so it's easy to take on the go. I think this has a lot of power to it. And if I was looking for kind of an entry-level amp model, or even if I was an experienced player and I just wanted something easy to throw in a backpack and kind of take on a vacation or something like that, I think this would work pretty well. And I don't know that you can beat the price. I mean, $80 for this, I think that's a great value. So if you're looking for something that's highly portable, sounds good, but it's not going to kind of have too much of an impact on your gear budget, I think this is something you should check out.